We just got an awesome text here. Hi, Captain Debbie and Captain Angie. Just tuned in, and it's so inspiring to hear two powerful women discuss fishing and boating. The Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast and SheFishes2.com have truly influenced my life in great ways. I'm so excited to have my own boat one day. Thank you both. You are awesome. And that's from Gabriella McGrath up in the Tampa Bay area.
That's awesome.
Yeah, up in Clearwater.
Welcome to the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast, inspiring real women with a passion for fishing and the outdoors to go get their adventure on. Now, here's your fearless host, Angie Scott.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast. As I record this, I'm sitting poolside at a house in Homosassa enjoying our last day of our Florida adventure. You'll get to hear all about our adventure today on next week's episode. Well, you know, sometimes when you're on the road for an extended period of time, things can get a little bit messy. Your daily routine is out of whack, your belongings can get disorganized and scattered, and that's sort of what happened to me. We were pretty much staying in the Palmetto, Bradenton area, but I had the amazing opportunity to be an in-studio guest on Captain Debbie Hanson's Saturday morning radio show, which the studio is down in the Cape Coral area. For those that don't know Debbie, she was featured back on episode 104 of the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast. She's a licensed captain and fishing guide in Southwest Florida. She's also a blogger and a vlogger for TakeMeFishing.org, among other things. Every Saturday, she hosts Real Talk Radio on ESPN 99.3. It worked out really well because I have some family down in Cape Coral, and they were kind enough to let us crash with them so I didn't have to make a 2+ hour drive to be in the studio by 6:45 in the morning. Shout out to Julie and Dan Evans. It was fun. We got to take some family and friends out on a Freedom Boat Club boat out of Venice, which turns out to be the very first Freedom Boat Club location. So that was really neat, and it was a beautiful day. I've got some video I'm going to be putting together for that, but it was so much fun seeing Debbie again in person and catching up on her Saturday morning Real Talk radio show. The entire 3-hour show can be found on the Real Talk Radio 99.3 website. The date that it aired was February 13th. You can find that in their archives. After that, we went to Marco Island for a couple nights to explore the area and try for some peacock bass in the Golden Gate Canal system. While I saw several peacocks, I could not get them to eat. One of the other anglers, and actually a couple other anglers, were reporting the same thing. I was even using live shiners. I tried topwater lures, running it right over them. They didn't even flinch at it, so they might have been getting into pre-spawn mode. And so, that being said, I can't quite mark catching a peacock bass off my bucket list just yet, but I'm sure I'll be trying again at some point in the future. The next day, I got to go out fishing with Captain John Campbell out on Marco Island. I have to say, if you're ever in that area and you want to go out for some trophy snook, redfish, trout, or maybe even tarpon, look up John Campbell. I'll put a link to his website in the show notes for this episode, which you can find right on your podcast app or by going to the website, thewomanangler.com/172. We only went out for a few hours, but it was a lot of fun. John is super experienced, and he's also a great teacher. I hooked up with a trout and a couple snook in that short amount of time we were out there, and we saw a tarpon, which was sort of unusual since the conditions were a bit choppy. We tried to entice it with our swim baits, but unfortunately we didn't have any luck. For those of you in the Midwest, in the summer, John is a guide in Iowa on Lake Okoboji. John has spent many years fishing the walleye tournament circuit, so he's a very experienced northern angler as well. For those bookings, he uses a different website, so I'll include links to both in the show notes. So after that, we went back to Cape Coral for another couple nights, and I really wanted to check out Sanibel Island and cruise around with our new e-bikes. I am so glad we did. It was an awesome experience. I wish we had more time. So next time we come back, we'll plan a few days to explore around Sanibel Island. I heard the fishing's really good there as well. Then from there, it was back to our home base in Palmetto. Well, with all this moving around and back and forth, I somehow missed a scheduled interview I had with two chicks in a boat, Lori and Beth, who are two bass tournament anglers based in Ohio. I've been wanting to have them on the show for a very long time. A couple different people have recommended that I feature them on an episode. And so thankfully, Lori was super understanding. She's been following along with our Facebook adventures and was super kind to just go ahead and reschedule. Well, when it came time to do the interview, I couldn't find my microphone cable anywhere, and I'd have to have that in order to do interviews over the phone. So, unfortunately, I had to call back and break the news that we were going to have to reschedule yet again once I was back in Nashville, which, if you're listening to this on release day, we're actually already back in Nashville. While we've absolutely loved our time in Florida, and we're sad to leave, also excited that we're working on getting that Lance mobile podcast studio rolling, and we're also going to pick up the new Key West boat out in South Carolina, so stay tuned for all of that. We were lucky to miss the deep freeze that pretty much the entire country experienced, except for where we were in southern Florida, and we were counting our blessings pretty much the entire time. I hope all of you made it out okay and are safe. We had a sort of scary situation, and several marinas around Nashville were experiencing some dock collapses and things like that due to the weight of the ice and snow on the roofs. And our roof was getting very, very close to the top of our houseboat, but thankfully the crew out there was able to get up on the roof and get the ice and snow off just in time before any damage occurred, and we didn't have any collapses at our marina. And so thoughts and prayers out to all of those who unfortunately experienced that at their marinas in the area. Now that we're back, the ice and snow is melting and the temps are starting to rise back up into the 50s and 60s, so we're just praying we don't get hit with another blast again. So anyway, back to the two chicks in a boat, Lori and Beth. We ended up having a fantastic phone conversation, and now I really can't wait to have them on the podcast. You all are going to enjoy them. So all that said, that left me with no episode for today. So I had an idea, and I reached out to Debbie Hanson to see if Real Talk Radio might let us use clips from our conversation as a podcast episode, so those of you that missed the show could check it out. Thankfully, they granted permission, and I can't wait for y'all to hear it today. We had so much fun and a lot of great conversation about women and fishing. We also had a few texts and phone calls come in, so you're going to hear updates from Amy Lockhart, whom I got to experience the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Super Bowl celebration parade on the water with, and you'll also get to hear from Betty Bauman from Ladies Let's Go Fishing, and all the things that she's got going on with that group. And I've been wanting to have Betty on the show for a while, so that works out perfectly. So this episode might be a little bit longer than a typical episode, but it's a ton of fun, and I hope y'all enjoy.
This is Real Talk Radio on 99.3 ESPN, 99.3ESPN.com, and the 99.3 ESPN app.
Got any bites yet? I do. Just like that lady could have told me down by the Cold Creek. It don't matter if it pulls on dusty gear in the tackle box out on the flat rock. Baiting that hook with only the right look. Lure in the sunshine, ripples in the sweet tide. Papa's going out of sight, even if it takes all night. Ooh, I'm gonna catch me a winner, 'cause I kinda like 'em bitter, and I don't mind.
Good morning, fishing fans. This is Captain Debbie Hanson welcoming you to Real Talk Radio on 99.3 ESPN. You can also listen to us live this morning at 99.3ESPN.com or by downloading the 99.3 ESPN app. It is producer Rick Church and I here in the studio this morning, along with my very special guest co-host, Captain Angie Scott. Welcome, Angie.
Hey, thanks for having me, and this is really cool.
I'm so glad you could be here. I'm so glad it worked out. This
Me
is just
too. It's
fantastic. So for those of you who don't know Angie is a master captain. She's an angler getting ready to fish the LBAA, and she is also the host of the award-winning Woman Angler and Adventure podcast.
Yeah.
So awesome that you could be here and come into the studio and
I know.
spend some time in sunny Florida. So what do you think so far?
I love it down here.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. So I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, and it's a little chilly up there right now. So I'm really thankful to be down here and just experiencing some new fishing opportunities, getting some saltwater experience in, which is a lot of fun, and just kind of exploring around different areas.
Yeah, absolutely. So you were up fishing. I saw you took a boat out on one of the freshwater lakes.
Yeah.
It was a couple weeks ago, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I got to go out on Lake Eustis, which is part of the Harris chain of lakes, and the picturesque Dora Canal, which was really cool to experience.
Yeah.
And the fishing wasn't so great. Cold front had just come through, and I guess that really kind of messes up the bass down here.
Yeah, our Florida fish don't like those cold fronts. Not at all.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it was still a really cool experience. So that was, I took a Freedom Boat Club. It was a Lund fishing boat, so that was cool.
Very, very cool. Yeah, so in terms of the difference between fishing, for example, because you're on Percy Priest Lake up in Nashville, correct? And you're on a houseboat up there when you're up there during the summer, during the warmer months of the year. And so what are some of the differences that you noticed in terms of fishing on the lakes down here? Is there any marked differences that you noticed right off the bat?
A lot of grass.
A lot more vegetation down there. Yeah,
I'm not used to that. So I was out there for a video shoot, and we were, just getting some punching shots and stuff like that in the grass, and that was like a whole different experience for me. I'm like, how are we going to get through this thick vegetation with this boat, and the trolling motor, and it was interesting. So yeah, I'm used to rocks, and Percy Priest, it's a very rocky lake, and so yeah, it was a very different.
And I'm guessing you're doing a lot of fishing for smallmouth up there too, correct?
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, bass, and largemouth and smallmouth,
Yep. Yeah. The vegetation down here, it's a lot of power fishing. Yeah.
I gotta step up my game in that regard and do some more practicing with that.
Yeah, well, it's exciting because it sounds like you've got, in March, the end of March, right, is when the LBAA tournament series kicks off, and that's how many tournaments are in the series for every year? Four, five?
Four tournaments in the classic, and so that's kind of cool for women that want the opportunity to be able to fish professionally, to not have such a packed schedule, to keep it to 4 tournaments a year, kind of allows women the opportunity to be able to take some time off work and make it to those tournaments, and not have to have it be your full-time gig or, trying to figure out how to pay the bills and also be able to fish a full tournament schedule. So
yeah, it's not a super intense schedule.
Right.
It gives you some time to kind of get adjusted to fishing tournaments, because that's a whole other different world of fishing. Sure.
And it's a great environment to just be all women, and everybody's just very supportive and helps, newcomers and stuff like that learn, and it's a great way to fish on that level, but also not so much pressure that you might feel, fishing some of these bigger FLWs and
tournament circuit.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm so excited for you. I can't wait to hear more about it as you get more involved in it. And, of course, be following along on your adventures, because I'm sure you're going to have a few podcast episodes covering all that, too. So, awesome. That's awesome stuff, Angie. So, all right, Angie, I've got a list of questions here for you.
All right.
You ready?
I'm ready.
So you also work with the Freedom Boat Club up in Nashville.
Yeah.
As you're the membership director, correct?
Yep, membership executive. I started out as the training captain. It was cool how it all came together. I was doing a live podcast at the Nashville Boat Show January before this past January. So before the whole COVID. Anyway, we were doing a live Woman Angler and Adventure podcast from the Nashville Boat Show, and I just happened to talk to somebody with the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency, and we were talking about my captain's license. And she said, oh, you should go over here and talk to Freedom Boat Club. They have a booth. They're looking for licensed captains to do their new member trainings. And so safety is a big priority for Freedom Boat Club, so all new members have to go through a new member orientation before they can start using boats. And so that includes classroom training and then also on the water training one-on-one with a Coast Guard licensed captain. And I was like, well, that sounds perfect, you know. So I talked to them and met with the owners, and one thing kind of led to another, and next thing you know, I started, just doing the new member trainings. We were really busy with that, and it was so much fun. Really enjoyed taking people out and showing them how to be safe out on the water, and, we get people anywhere from never boated before in their lives to have boated for 30 years, but even the ones that have boated for 30 years, they're always super appreciative. They're like, this was so helpful, because you kind of get a little complacent or maybe forget about some of that stuff, you know. And so, and some things that they just never knew, you know. So it's been really fun. And then it kind of led into, I just love the whole concept of Freedom Boat Club and helping people get out on the water without the hassle of owning a boat and all the expenses that go along with it. So I started doing some of the membership sales, like bringing new members on board, and I enjoyed that so much because, like, talking about boating all day, like, what can be better, but you know,
right? Absolutely.
And fishing, you know, we do have some fishing boats in our fleet, and so it's just been the perfect thing.
That's awesome. And so for people who aren't aware of how Freedom Boat Club works, it's basically you pay into a membership, and then you have access to their fleet. And I know that we have one on Fort Myers Beach here, and there's one in Bonita Springs. So basically it's an annual fee, correct?
It's so you pay an entry fee to join the club, and then you pay monthly dues.
Okay.
You do have the option if you just want to pay it yearly and get an extra discount to do that. But so, like, when you join in Nashville, the cool thing is, so we have 5 locations in Nashville, but Freedom Boat Club is up to 253 locations worldwide. So as you travel, you also get access as a member to all these different other locations. So it's really cool for people in Nashville this time of year when it's colder and you don't really want to be going out boating. Even though you can, we are open year-round, but you can travel to warmer climates like Florida and take advantage of your membership down there. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think for folks down here, it's such a great, solution, because obviously the club takes care of all the maintenance on the boats. So that's something you don't have to worry about. And if you've got guests coming in town and you want a bigger boat, you've got access to that. Yep. So depending on your needs, if you have guests or, if you want to go out fishing instead of just cruising, you've got access to all the different boats that they have. That's great. That's really cool. Yeah. Angie, I did want to run through how folks can find you. So the podcast website, thewomanangler.com. You're on Instagram at thewomanangler. Yep. And on Facebook, of course. Yep. And you've got an amazing Facebook community for the Woman Angler and Adventure that you've grown, and you've got all these great ladies on there who are incredibly supportive of each other. Yeah. Thanks to you for building that and facilitating that. It's awesome to see.
Love that group. We don't exclude men, though, so we like our guy supporters to join as well, and it's a lot of fun.
I wanted to talk a little bit about how you developed your love and passion for fishing and boating, because you do such a great job of inspiring women to connect with each other and to get out there on the water. So tell us a little bit about how you got involved in fishing and boating and who kind of inspired you or got you out on the water.
Yeah, well, I actually grew up in Minnesota, the land of 10,000 lakes, which is really cold right now. Yes. So, again, thankful to be in Florida right now, not up there. But, I grew up there just with my family fishing. We did a lot of walleye fishing and crappie, panfish, stuff like that growing up. I just have such fond memories of taking family vacations up to northern Minnesota, like getting a cabin for the week and just fishing all week. And I loved it so much. And then as I got a little older, what really drew me to fishing was the whole competitive. I'm kind of a competitive person, which fish in the tournaments, you probably gather that, but I just love, like, who's going to catch the biggest fish or the most fish, and that was really what excited me about fishing. And then I wanted to work in the music business, so that's what brought me down to Nashville. I went to school down there, and then I got a job at a booking agency, which we book concerts, and I did that for 16 years, and I'd kind of gotten away from fishing for a long time because I was so focused on that, except for every year I'd try to take a trip back up to Minnesota, and we'd go with my family and go to a lake and get that walleye fishing in, and I started to realize, I'm like, there's all these great lakes right around Nashville. Why am I not taking advantage and doing some fishing down here? So I started out bank fishing, and that kind of led me to thinking about getting a boat. And I finally bought my first boat, was actually a pontoon. So I did all my fishing from a pontoon, and it was perfect because I could fish from it, but I could also, like, I was writing songs at the time, so I would invite songwriters out on the boat, and it was like the perfect platform to do a variety of different things. So once I got that boat, and then it was kind of game on from there, and that's when I started working on my captain's license, and yeah.
That's such a great story. So did you have, when you moved to Nashville, was it easy for you to find other female anglers to go out and fish with, or did you just kind of go out on your own and start exploring?
Yeah, going from Minnesota where it's really more of a family thing, and then, coming down to Nashville, it's kind of a different culture. So I found in Nashville, I just didn't see as many women out there, especially not on their own. Sometimes husbands and wives, you'd see them, paired up. None of my friends really in the music business were really into fishing, and so I did have one friend who did like to fish and would come out with me a little bit, but yeah. So.
Gotcha. Well, we actually have a mutual friend who's holding on line 1 right now.
Oh, awesome.
Who definitely fishes. So let's grab Amy Lockhart. Hey, Amy, good morning. It's so good to hear from you. How's it going?
Hey, good morning, Debbie. Good morning, Angie.
Hey, Amy. Thanks for calling in. It's awesome.
Yeah. How's the fishing been up in Tampa, Amy?
Wintertime fishing, is a whole different animal, really.
Yes. Yep.
Because you just can never predict really what the weather's going to do, even though, you listen to the weathermen every day. The weather changes minute by minute.
Yeah.
So we've actually just been doing a lot of silver trout is what we've been getting, a lot of silver trout, and whiting really is what we've been catching a lot of up here in Tampa.
Yeah, and I know that you were out on the freshwater this past week because I got a text of a couple of beautiful bass. So fill us in on that experience.
Yeah, so I call him my coach. So he's one of the captains down here that's kind of taking me under his wing and teaching me what I need to know. I'm still learning fishing, and you just never quit learning, but
never. It's so true.
We decided to take a day off from saltwater and go back to both of our roots because he grew up bass fishing. He's originally from the Tampa area. And so we went to the Winter Haven chain and put in at Lake Ship, and we fished Lake Ship, Lake May, and Lake Howard. And, the bass are starting to bed down, so
yep.
It was a really good change of pace, and it was a lot of fun. One of the girls was 5 pounds, and the other one was right over 6 pounds, I believe.
Nice.
So it was was definitely a good day. If we were in a tournament, we would have had a really good bag.
Yes, you would have, for sure. For sure. And then you and Angie got out on the water together this past week.
Yeah, that was a blast.
Yeah.
We
cool.
just spare the moment kind of thing for the Bucks Parade, and my buddy Mike had another captain that's kind of taken me under his wing. We had some extra seats, and actually Angie and I were supposed to do our podcast that day. And I said, hey, let's reschedule the podcast and let's go to the Bucks Parade.
Yep. That was fun. That was like a chance of a lifetime opportunity. So we really appreciate you inviting us out for that. That was a lot of fun. And Freedom Boat Club was out there actually. I saw they were the media boat, and
oh, perfect.
They got the shot of Tom Brady throwing the trophy from one boat to another.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for those who don't know Amy, so Amy is retired military. She's a Navy veteran, and Amy, you're still working on some things with Lady Vets Fishing, correct? You still getting some ladies out on the water?
I am, as much as I can. So, the ladies, women only make up about let's just say military in general is about 2% of the population, I think, and then women inside of that is only about, I want to say, 10 or 12%. Yeah. So it's really hard to find women. Like, I really have to dig through to find female veterans and make sure that they're taken care of just as much as the men are. So that's kind of what I've made it a point to do since I retired from the Navy 3 years ago is to make sure that women understand that these nonprofits that are out there are just as much for them as they are for the men. Because, typically really all you see is men, running these nonprofits. And women, we have our own set of problems, but, anxiety is one of our big problems. And if we see nothing but men and men and men, we're going to just tend to think that those things just aren't for us. So, I try to get out there and make it seen as much as possible that women can get out and enjoy the outdoors and the water and things like that just as much as anybody else.
Yeah, that's a good point, Amy. And so if there are any lady veterans out there who would like to connect with you, how do they get in touch with you? What's the best way?
Well, on Instagram, it's Lady Vets Fishing. And then on Facebook, it's just Amy Lockhart is my Facebook page, and then they can also email ladyvetsfishing@gmail, or they can give me a call on my cell phone, and my cell phone number is 757-618-5030.
Got it. Well, good. Yeah, hopefully it's I'll tell you what, getting out there on the water is just the best stress relief ever.
Amen.
And I think we talk about it all the time on the show, but I think after this past year, yeah, folks are just really looking to get out there and decompress and have some, relaxation time out on the water. So. Oh,
yep. And actually, Angie and I talked about that too. Like, I could care less whether I'm really even catching anything. Just a day of riding around in the bay or sightseeing or anything like that on the water is just as healing as catching fish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and you catch plenty of fish, Amy, because I see all your offshore pictures. Yes.
We'll get you offshore one day, too.
Yeah, one of these days we got to make that happen. I miss seeing you, so we got to get together as soon as things start to wind down here with season. But thanks so much for calling in, Amy.
Yeah, thanks, Amy.
It was fantastic to hear from you, and like I said, look forward to connecting with you in real life again soon.
I know, right?
Yes.
I can get out on Tina the Tracker.
Amen. Yeah, let's make it happen.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, Amy, you have a great weekend. Thanks again for calling in.
Thanks, you too. It's good talking to you guys.
Yeah, likewise. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
That is Amy Lockhart with Lady Vets Fishing up in Tampa. Yo, we got a couple of texts that came through here, so let's see. This text is for Angie. Which fish nerd is the coolest and most incredibly handsome? Clay, Tim, or Crappie Hippie?
Oh, man. That's got to be hands down Crappie Hippie John King. No doubt. No question about it. No, they're fish nerds guys. They're great supporters of the Woman Angler and Adventurer. And John King, Crappie Hippie, he does a cool Friday Angie's Fishing poll in the Woman Angler group, and it's always a fun question every week. So shout out to those guys.
Oh, that's cool. That's too cool. And we're gonna head over to line 1 because we've got Betty Bowman with Ladies Let's Go Fishing standing by. Hey, Betty. Good morning.
Good morning. Today is Ladies' Day, and just perfect right before Valentine's Day. 2 ladies on a radio show, and I'm proud of you guys.
There you
Girls.
go. Well, it's always good to hear from you, Betty. So what's new? What's new with Ladies Let's Go Fishing?
Well, our shearwater boat just came in, and I'm getting it ready to launch and check it out. I'm so excited. It has misters on the T-top. Believe it or not, that's my favorite part of it, and it goes pretty fast, too. I've been pre-fishing for our seminar next weekend at Bass Pro Shops to catch bass, and caught a couple bass yesterday. A friend of mine, this is West Fort Lauderdale now, he caught a 9.5-pound peacock bass.
Wow. Now that's got to be close to a state record, if not a state record. Because that's
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
So I know where he's fishing, so I'm going to check that
That is a big peacock bass. That's awesome. Congrats to him. Yeah.
Yes, and we're going to be fishing for peacock bass out of Bass Pro Shops, Dania Beach. We have about 4 slots left. It's limited to 20 to social distance because we will be learning how to fish and then going out on the lake where they have peacock bass in the lake, and it's a lake nobody gets to fish. Okay,
so that's at Bass Pro Shops. Did you ever do that at IGFA? Had you done it at IGFA once? For some reason, I had IGFA in my head.
They're closed. The inside of IGFA is closed, so luckily Bass Pro Shops said, well, you could just have the seminar there and learn how to fish. Then we're going to rig up our rods and then go out and tackle the fish. And then I'll be in the Gulf Coast for the Saltwater Inshore Seminar May 15th to the 16th. I have the South Florida Offshore Seminar, by the way, the sailfish are snapping here, April 23rd to the 25th. And we've got a couple in the Keys, one in June, one in October. And our events, what's good is you learn how to fish, you get to network, and then we have charter boat fishing, or if it's freshwater, on land. So there's nothing better than to actually go there and fish once you've just learned how to do it. That's sort of what embeds the knowledge and motivates ladies to go out and do it on their own.
Yes. Yep, it's learning and then getting out on the water to apply what you've learned while it's still fresh in your mind. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That's right. And we're excited to have you as a speaker when we come to the Bass Pro Shops there in Fort Myers. That's May 15th. And then the gals will be fishing on charter boats on the 16th.
Yeah, I'll be looking forward to that, Betty, for sure. Well, we actually have another caller standing by on line 3, Betty, so I'm going to let you go, but it was great to hear from you. Thanks for calling in.
Thank you, and it's all on our website, ladiesletsgofishing.com. There's lots of pictures. Come and join us. Check us on Facebook and get connected. And come to one of our virtual meetings.
Absolutely. Perfect. Well, you take care, Betty. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
From billion-dollar ad budgets and arena naming rights to tens of thousands of retail locations, big wireless providers spend big to appear like they're your only option. How do they afford it all? That big bill you get at the end of every month. Mint Mobile had a different idea. Instead of brick-and-mortar overhead, Mint Mobile is online only. What does that mean for you? A whole lot of savings, because wireless plans from Mint Mobile start at just $15 a month. That's unlimited talk, text, and data for just $15 a month. You'll save enough that you can get a brand new rod and reel for the upcoming season. For anyone who just hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. All plans come with unlimited talk, text, and high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan, and you can even keep your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. By going online only and eliminating traditional costs of retail, Mint Mobile passes significant savings on to you. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That's mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
That is Betty Bowman with Ladies Let's Go Fishing. So it's been my goal, since last year when I took over the show from Rob, to get more women here in the studio. And I had some lined up, and then and then the pandemic. And so I was in the studio solo for several months, and then we finally got to the point where we could get back to having guests in the studio again. So I'm looking forward to getting a few more ladies on air and scheduled back, to be here in the studio. And I know, I love, Angie, on your website, you've got kind of like your philosophy at the Woman Angler and Adventurer, which is that women deserve to be better represented in fishing and the outdoors industry, that we're better together. If she can do it, you can do it. Always leave things better than you find it. And that we should enjoy the outdoors 5 days and work 2.
Or every day if you can.
Exactly, right. And of course to respect the fish. So, I guess how did you come up with the idea for the podcast and decide that this was something you really wanted to do and make that leap?
Well, long story short, I had dabbled in podcasting a little bit when I was into songwriting, and a friend of mine had invited me to co-host a podcast with him on songwriting. So that kind of introduced me to the whole world of podcasting. And then just kind of fast forward a couple of years after that, I was getting a little itchy. I love working in the music industry, but sitting at a desk all day long, and me being such an outdoors person, and after getting my captain's license and stuff, I was thinking, how can I kind of transition into something more outdoors fishing related? And just kind of the idea popped into my head to start a podcast. And so I started it originally it was called It Pays to Fish, and I was featuring people who make a living in the fishing industry and all different facets of it. And one of the episodes, I interviewed this lady who's up in Wisconsin that runs this big fishing group up there. And hearing her story and kind of, thinking about women and fishing and why she does what she does kind of started the wheels turning in my mind. I'm like, there's not really a podcast out there for women to represent them, and so I shifted gears. I decided, I'm going to provide that platform so I can share, be a place that, women who are doing amazing things like you've been on the show, can share their stories and hopefully inspire other women to get more involved in fishing in the outdoors.
Yeah. And just to be supportive and encouraging of each other. I think that's a big thing because, there's I'm sure a lot of ladies out there. I think, I've seen down here kind of a surge in women who are now, getting ready to retire and they have more time. So now they're really anxious and looking forward to being able to get out on the water and learn more about fishing. So it's neat to see, those who have been out there fishing since they've been knee-high to a grasshopper, but it's also really cool to see some of these women who are, learning later in life and just jumping into it with both feet. It's really, really awesome to see that.
I've been so encouraged being down here. I've seen so many women just on their own out there fishing. It's so great to see. I went to a fishing seminar at the Bradenton Boat Show, and there was 2 or 3 women that were just there on their own, and they were asking really good questions. And, I've had the opportunity to stay in kind of this 55-plus retirement community, and there's this lady that runs a Key West boat that went out on her own and came back in, and we were just kind of fishing one of the canals, and I was watching her clean her boat up and stuff, and I'm like, this is so cool.
Yeah, it's great to see more and more women getting out there on the water for sure. So Angie, you have something coming up too that I wanted to touch on this coming week. Wednesday the 17th, you're being featured on the Freedom Boat Club's. They're doing a watch party.
Yep.
And this is the Nashville Freedom Boat Club.
This is actually Freedom Boat Club.
Nationally, yep. That's exciting.
Yeah,
very exciting.
Very exciting. They do a watch party Wednesday video series every week. And I will be the special guest this coming Wednesday. It will be on their Facebook page, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So tune in for that.
So tune in, and you'll be talking about the podcast and fishing and some of the things that you've got coming up. So, and I wanted to also touch on, going back to the LBAA. So that starts the end of March.
Yep.
And that is Lake Ray Hubbard, correct?
Yep.
And then you've got 3 others. There's 3 other tournaments that you'll be fishing.
Yep, we'll be hitting Hickory Lake this year, Cane River in Louisiana, which was one of the ones we were going to hit last year. They ended up getting hit with that hurricane right before the tournament, and so we had to cancel that. So Truman Lake was my first experience fishing with the LBA last year, and then they'll be finishing up the year with the Lady Bass Classic. So fingers crossed I'll get to make it that far, and we'll see.
Yeah, so exciting, so much fun.
Yeah.
And how many ladies are members of the LBAA? Do you know?
That's a good question. I don't know. It's not a huge. We usually have just maybe 24, 25 boats.
Yep.
So it's not a huge. But I kind of like it that size.
Yeah.
And you really get to know each other and network and stuff like that. So
and really build that camaraderie with a tight knit group.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And then fill me in, because I know you just got a truck camper. You just got a Lance truck camper.
Yes.
And I know you've been going through the process of getting it hooked up to the truck and making plans for coming back down here next winter. So talk a little bit about the process of getting the truck camper and some of the things you've learned along the way, because it sounds like it's been a learning experience.
It's been a learning experience for sure. So truck campers have really come a long way since I was a kid. I've interviewed a couple ladies on the podcast where they travel around. One of them actually lived full-time with her husband who fishes the Bassmaster Elite Series, Carl Jacobson, and Kayla, his wife, and they lived in a Lance truck camper for 4 years. And I was like, well, how do you live in a truck camper? And I started doing some research. I'm like, whoa, these things have really come a long ways. I mean, you got a bathroom and a shower, kitchen, like everything you need right on board. They have slide outs now and all this stuff. And so that kind of got the wheels turning, both for the podcast, like having a mobile studio that I can go around and interview people as I travel, but also for the tournament, like fishing tournaments, like we can bring this truck camper, but we can also pull the boat behind us. We don't have to have like 2 different rigs or worry about staying in hotels and all of that. So kind of started that process. There is a lot to it because being these campers with the slide out and all that, they're very heavy. And so you got to make sure you get the right truck. So we got a 1-ton Ford F350 diesel. And, but with that, you still kind of need to make some modifications to help, make it a better ride. So Hellwig, suspension products make some good products to help with, like a rear and front sway bar and kind of help with that extra weight, so the truck can support that. So it has been a process, and then it just, with COVID and the supply chain and having a hard time getting your hands on parts, but Lance has been really awesome helping me get all that set up. So I think finally by the end of this month, we'll be ready to roll finally and get the studio set up, and hopefully that first tournament down in Dallas, Ray Hubbard will be rolling with the new rig.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. And you're going to be fishing from a center console, right?
Yeah.
So it's a Key West 230 Bay Reef, right? So
a little unconventional. I do realize, most people that fish bass tournaments fish out of a traditional bass boat.
Yep.
So this is, a bay boat, center console. It's got the T-top. It might limit me in certain situations, like if there's, a low bridge that we're not going to be able to get under to access certain parts of the lake or whatever, but we'll see how that goes. I know a lot of people out there do bass fish from a center console, so it's not like a totally new concept, but we've been seeing a lot more center consoles, when you typically think saltwater when you see those, but we've been seeing a lot more of those pop up in Nashville on our area lakes. So they're becoming more and more popular as a fishing platform, even in freshwater.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and I know, here in Florida, there's a lot of folks who fish both saltwater inshore and freshwater. So it's not uncommon to see folks out bass fishing from a flats boat from time to time either. Yeah. So yeah. So hey, if you want to get out there and fish, you just
do it. Yeah, and I'll be taking members out too with that boat on our Lake Percy Priest and showing them good areas to fish, because we have some of those in our fleet that they'll be able to reserve themselves. And so we want them to be able to go out and have success, when they go out for the day and try to catch some bass or catfish or whatever, they want to go after.
Yeah, for sure. So when you're going to be fishing these tournaments from the Key West, are you fishing by yourself? Do you have a co-angler?
So I'll have a co-angler. So that's the way that the LBA is set up. The pro and the co Is
Pro in the cove.
Yep. So I'll have somebody in the back of the boat, and that's why I went with the Bay Reef model, because it has the front and the rear casting platforms.
Yep. So there's plenty of space to get back there and cast, and yeah, nice, awesome.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
So you and I met through Take Me Fishing.
Yeah, that's
basically.
Right. Yep.
I was doing some blogging. I'm still doing some blogging for them and some video content. And I know you reached out and we got connected, and then I was able to do the podcast. And obviously, you know, you've been so instrumental in connecting so many of these, you know, great women anglers that are out there, not just in Florida, but basically across the country. And, you know, I mean, I think it's important for us to touch on, you know, why that's important for us to have that support and camaraderie. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of women out there who have become a lot more confident in their fishing and boating skills because they've had that support. So is there maybe like one or two stories that you have of ladies that you've connected with that have really kind of grown as a result of having that support from the community and just getting connected with the right people?
Yeah, well, that's been one of my favorite things about having this podcast is all the amazing women that I get to meet through it, you know, seeking out guests to have on the show. And then, you know, as you go, you kind of hear names and, you know, somebody might mention something. I'm like, oh, you need to talk to so-and-so, you know, and just connecting women. And it's been so much fun. But there's just so many inspirational women out there right now. And like one that I want to give a shout out to, and you've probably followed her a little bit, is Catherine Field. Are you familiar with her?
Yeah.
Does kayak fishing, but she's so cool.
She's a bass angler. Yeah.
She's totally like just puts it out there. You know, she's learning. She shows the good, the bad, and the ugly on her social platforms and videos and YouTube. And it's just been so cool to like connect with women like that. And I've seen it kind of becomes a small world, you know, because she got connected with Christine Fisher, who's another majorly inspirational.
Such an inspiring kayak bass angler, and she's just out there crushing it. It's awesome
and I've had her on the show before, so now it's cool to see that they're connected, maybe not necessarily through the show, but it's just cool to see all these different ladies, you know, getting together and supporting each other.
Yeah, and big credit to you because you've been a big conduit in this industry for that. So thank you for everything that you do, honestly. But we'll get more into that. Yeah. This is Captain Debbie Hanson. I'm in the studio this morning with my special guest co-host, Captain Angie Scott, Master Captain Angie Scott. Yeah. Which, that's something I wanted to talk to you about, too. How was that process, going to get your master captain's license? Because you had your captain's license.
Yeah, so basically, I went through Mariner's Learning System, which is an online school that you can do kind of on your own time. And since it was just an upgrade, it wasn't quite as intense as, you know, the first round, getting the 6-pack. The reason I got it is because I was potentially maybe going to be doing some captaining down here in the Homosassa area, maybe doing some like manatee tours and things like that in the winter. But then I ended up working with Freedom Boat Club, and it all worked out anyways. But I went ahead and got my master upgrade. And I was one of the first people in the country to test online. That's a new thing.
That's right. Because you did that, right? It was right around the start of the pandemic, correct?
It was a little
after that.
It was a little later, but yeah, they told me that I was one of the first ones to do it online, which that was an interesting process because obviously they have to be very, very careful to make sure that you're not cheating or anything like that when you take the test. So I had to have a webcam, and you know they really have a lot of precautions that they take to make sure that people aren't, you know, cheating their way through it. So,
yeah. And you could just take you took the whole exam online.
Yep.
And I'm sure it was a lot of studying.
Oh, yeah. It was pretty intense.
I remember how much studying there was involved, you know, with just getting your captain's license. So,
there's a lot of stuff that I've never had to deal with before, like block and tackle and stuff like that I had to, like, you know, learn because I don't work on big ships. But that's stuff that they still want you to know. And so, yeah, it was pretty intense.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on
thank
that.
You.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know you're involved with a couple of the outdoor writers associations, right? Are you a member of CIOPA?
I am not a member of CIOPA yet, but I am a member of POMA, which is the Professional Outdoor Media Association.
Yep.
And then also the Association of Great Lake Outdoor Riders, AGLOW. So being involved in those organizations has been hugely beneficial for the podcast and just networking and meeting awesome people. I know you're with the Florida Outdoor Writers, is that right? Are you
Outdoor Writers Association of America?
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep. Yeah, and hopefully it's a juggling act. Hopefully this year I'll get to, I'll have a little bit more free time to get involved in a few of the other organizations. I've been looking into a few others. So we'll see. Yeah, I think right now it's just plugging through season, and we're continuing to work on, my own blog at She Fishes Too, and then the blogging that I do for Take Me Fishing. So yeah, it's been a really good, productive year with some exciting things in the works. But hopefully, you get into that groove and you start getting a routine, and you start, having a little bit more time and learning how to manage your time when you're juggling things. And
I know all
yes,
about that.
you do, but you do a fantastic job of it. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
And I know we were talking a little bit on break about, just some of the things that, I think a lot of us are, we feel and experience when we go out there. And in these days of social media, we see a lot of people that are out there, always posting big fish pictures. But I think, to your credit, you've done such a good job too of walking us through the process of, learning new things and being authentic and being vulnerable. And I think there's so many women that are doing a really good job of that too, of kind of like guiding us along in the process as they're learning, because it's so true. No matter how much any of us think we know about fishing, we only know such a small, tiny piece of it, because it honestly is a lifelong learning process. And then when you add boating into the mix, it's the same thing, because, there's so many different types of boats, and there's so many different, mechanical things that you really need to be aware of and learn, and safety things that you need to be aware of and learn. So
yeah, and that's one of the things with Freedom Boat Club that I've really enjoyed, is being able to, my first boat was a pontoon, and getting to experience all these different kinds of boats and learning, because they all drive a little bit different, deck boats and center consoles and regular fishing boats. So it's fun to be able to get to experience driving all those different styles of boats. And sometimes I think I focus so much on my lack of fishing knowledge, because you get really overwhelmed. There's just so much information out there. But I do feel pretty confident in my boating skills, so that's good.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and that's the thing. I know sometimes I feel like an anomaly too, and it's like, listen, I don't have this big fancy boat. I've got a 15-foot Tracker John boat with an 8 horsepower outboard on the back of it. It's nothing fancy, but it's a great boat for trailering. It's super lightweight. I love fishing out of it. So hopefully I'll be able to upgrade in the future. But, it's like, I think a lot of times, we all have this idea in our heads of, I need to have this big, awesome, expensive boat, and I need to know everything there is about fishing. And it's like, wow, why do we put so much pressure on ourselves when it comes to a lot of this stuff? Because, yeah, I mean, even the bass fishing, like you and I were talking about, down here, it is like, and even a lot, on a lot of the bass tournament circuits, the primary focus is on power fishing. And like for me personally, I love finesse fishing. I love light tackle fishing. Yeah. And I love fly fishing. And, but I'm still relatively new to fly fishing too, in the grand scheme of things. I mean, I've been doing it for maybe 6 years. But, I absolutely love it. And I have to give a lot of credit to Mr. Joe Mahler, who has helped me so much with my fly casting expertise. He's a fly casting instructor and a coach. And yeah, I, worked with him for quite a few years. But I think, the main thing is just, gosh, get out there and do it and connect with some people, some great mentors and people who are going to be supportive and stand behind you. And certainly, I mean, I don't know, do you have any other suggestions for folks who are looking to get into fishing as far as kind of, getting connected with a community or, just getting their feet wet, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely. I always try to connect with like-minded people. If you are a woman, it does help to connect with other women. So try to find a women's group like Ladies Let's Go Fishing down here, or there's different other women's groups. There's Becoming an Outdoors Woman. I don't know if they do that down here in Florida.
They do. Mm-hmm.
So those are great events to go, and then you can meet other people. And then number one to me, just remember at the end of the day, fishing is fun.
Yeah.
When you start feeling overwhelmed or down on yourself, just remember to have fun. That's what it's all about, and that's what I'm going to try to keep in mind when I'm doing my tournaments. I am competitive, and I know I'll put a lot of pressure on myself, but if I'm not having fun, then what's the point?
Yeah.
So,
Amen. Yeah. That's what it's all about. And when you're fishing different lakes and like the experiences that you've been having lately where, you know your home lake, you've been fishing on Percy Priest, and you kind of get a feel for the seasonal patterns once you've been fishing it for a few years. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be an exciting adventure because then you're fishing areas that you haven't fished before, and you're learning to put all those puzzle pieces together no matter where you are. And I'm assuming now, are you guys going to go in like a couple days in advance, and you'll do some pre-fishing then?
Yep. They give us 3.5 days of pre-fishing opportunity that's not off limits. So the plan is to take advantage of that as much as possible because it's a brand new lake, lot to learn. So
definitely,
hopefully that will give us enough time to kind of get an idea of what's going on and hopefully have some success out there.
Yeah. So what do you do? Do you have any kind of rituals or things that you do to kind of prepare before you get ready to go out there?
I use maps a lot, like Google Earth. That's something I learned from listening to the Salt Strong guys, Joe Simons and Luke.
Yeah.
And, really study those maps because we have all those awesome resources at our disposal now that you can do so much homework online before you even ever get into the area, and so that's kind of one of my big things is to really do as much homework as I can from home before I get down there, using maps and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, and then I'm sure. So your Key West it's outfitted with all the electronics and everything, right? So
yes, yes. So I have not picked it up yet. So this is kind of this is another one of them things. It's just you just got to roll with the flow. But I'm supposed to go to South Carolina. That's where they're headquartered, to pick up the boat the first week of March.
Okay.
So we're going to be under a little bit of a tight timeline to get the motor broken in and, get all the electronics set up. I got to learn the electronics. I'll have power poles this year, so it'll be my first time, which I'm really excited about that. I think that's going to be a game changer for me.
Yeah,
to
for
have
sure.
Power poles. So, we'll see. I hope it all comes together. It may be one of those things where it ends up, not coming together for this first tournament, and you just got to roll with it. But, we're planning on that it's all going to come together. I always try to keep a positive mindset and, hope for the best. And hey, if we got to break the motor in while we're pre-fishing, then that's what we got to do.
Right. Well, and the thing is that I'm sure, you've had a lot of these really, awesome experiences coming up and new experiences coming up, but I think it's like they always say, kind of if your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough. And,
right.
If you're not always challenging yourself to get out there and learn something new and do something different, are you really growing?
Right.
Yeah.
So it's always been kind of my mentality. Even with starting the podcast, it scared me to death the first time I ever got asked to be a co-host on a podcast. I'm like, I've never done anything like that before. I didn't think I had a very good radio type voice at that time. I'm like, why would you want me to be your co-host? And I'm like, okay, I'll do it.
Just jump in. Yeah. And
you look where it's brought me, So,
right? Yeah. I mean, amazing places. It's so cool. It's like, I think I was listening to this podcast episode by Brene Brown, and she was just talking about, people are going to criticize, like people are always going to have something to say. And sometimes it's like we anticipate what the critics out there are going to say. But the fact of the matter is, like, if you're not in the ring, if you're not out there doing it, I don't really want to hear your feedback because you're not out there doing it. I mean, the people who are out there trying the new things, whether they're successful or not successful, they're still learning and they're still getting out there and doing it. So you got to give them credit. It's like, it's easy to criticize when you're an armchair quarterback.
Right.
But when you're actually the one that's, out in the field and doing it, it's like, kudos to all those who are out there. Yeah. Stretching themselves, taking themselves beyond the limits of what they're comfortable with.
Yep.
And we just got an awesome text here. Hi, Captain Debbie and Captain Angie. Just tuned in, and it's so inspiring to hear two powerful women discuss fishing and boating. The Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast and SheFishes2.com have truly influenced my life in great ways. I'm so excited to have my own boat one day. Thank you both. You are awesome. And that's from Gabriella McGrath up in the Tampa Bay area.
That's awesome.
Yeah, up in Clearwater. So thank you, Gabriella, for that awesome text. We certainly appreciate it, and it's been great to get to know you too. And then, Dopey McDoperson just said, you got a text. These are all the nicknames we have from the afternoon sports show, Angie, so just bear with us. Yeah, in case you were wondering. He says, I think we need to have a month that celebrates women, not breast cancer month. It's not Mother's Day, just a regular month. We do. I know we have National Women in Sports Day, but we don't have, Women's Empowerment Month. There probably is. I'm going to have to look that up. I'll have to look that up.
You're listening to Real Talk Radio on 99.3 ESPN and the 99.3 ESPN app.
Good morning and welcome back to Real Talk Radio. This is Captain Debbie Hanson. I'm in the studio this morning with special guest co-host Captain Angie Scott.
Hey.
Can you believe it? Oh my gosh, we have less than 10 minutes to the end of the show.
Really quick, I just got a text from my dad, who's up in Minnesota, and he said,
that's awesome.
He said, listening to the radio show, good job. Mom and I can't believe we have a daughter on the radio.
Aww. That is awesome. Cool. Thanks for listening, Dad.
Yeah, thank you.
By the way, Angie, I'm a fellow Minnesotan myself.
Oh, really?
Duluth.
Oh, wow, you're real Minnesotan.
Oh, I'm way up there. Northern boy.
Nice.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, and a lot of us got our start I got my start freshwater fishing up in the lakes of the Upper Peninsula.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Just the saltwater just gets us all at some point.
It does. I know. I'm sure you're excited, too, just to, get more experience with all the saltwater inshore species we have down here.
It's been so much fun. I got to come down here with the Redfish Roadie road trip back in the fall of 2019, and we had a bunch of stops down here in, Homosassa. We went to Marco Island, Naples, Everglades, Stewart, Florida. We got to fish Alligator Alley, and so that really turned me on to this whole area, and so it's been fun being back down here and getting to try it again.
Yeah, for sure. And then just think, gosh, next winter you're going to come back down and you're going to be so much more dialed in.
I hope
you'll
so.
have all these great experiences. Oh, you will be.
Yeah.
You definitely will be. Yeah, so Gabriella just texted in. She said March is actually Women's History Month.
Okay.
So we're just a little early, Angie. That's all. We're just here celebrating it a little
prepping.
Early.
Yeah, we're pre-gaming.
Yeah, that's what we're doing, pre-gaming. I like it. Michael Hornung just sent in a text. We have a new Saturday morning drinking game with Captain Debbie. There's one phrase. When you say it, we all have to take a shot. Oh, my gosh. Saturday morning drinking game? Really, Michael? Come on.
What's the phrase?
Too early.
Well, no, he said, he's texting.
What is
he
it?
said, today it's for sure.
For sure.
Or absolutely.
No, I didn't know that.
I say absolutely a lot.
Well,
Absolutely.
I didn't notice any extra for sure's, but
I notice when I'm editing my podcast, I say awesome a lot. Awesome.
I do that too. I've realized I'm guilty of that too. I feel like maybe I'm wrong. I feel like that could be our Midwestern roots.
Could be.
Awesome is an awesome word, so
It is, and sometimes there's no other word to describe something other than awesome. So yeah, that's just part of it, right? Yeah. So anything else that you've got coming up in the next few weeks other than being on the go, Marco Island,
Yep,
and then
we're heading
up to you said South Carolina to pick up the boat.
Yep. Yep. So it's going to be crunch time in the next couple weeks here, with still trying to enjoy what little of Florida we have left before we have to head back up to Nashville and get rolling for getting prepped for the first tournament and getting the boat ready and all that stuff. So.
Yeah.
Be busy.
Yeah, and I know real quick, we've got a couple minutes before we have to sign off, but the one thing I know that you've been involved with too, which I think is really great. I won't say awesome. It's really great that you are on the Sober Skipper Advisory Council. So, in about a minute, touch on that and what that's about. And,
so CITO Foundation has a Sober Skipper Advisory Council where they promote boating safety, and one of the biggest things is being a sober skipper. So they have yellow wristbands, and Freedom Boat Club promotes that as well with our members to make sure that whoever's the captaining the boat is not going to be partaking in alcoholic beverages out on the water, so everybody can stay safe as possible. So they have a really cool program. They do a lot with the Life Jacket Loaner program and all these other things that the CITO Foundation is a part of to promote boating safety and keep people as safe as possible out there on the water.
Wow. Well, Angie, thank you so much for coming in this morning. It was so great having you here in the studio, and it was great to see you again, and I can't wait to stay tuned to all your upcoming adventures. It's hard to believe it's that time. We got to go. Thank you, Rick Church, the director of the show, for pressing the buttons, for screening the call. Thanks again, Angie, for being here this morning. Remember, everyone, share your experiences, share your stories, get someone new out on the water. Tight Lines All will be back next Saturday, same place, same time.
All right. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Isn't Captain Debbie such a pro? She's awesome. If you ever get the chance to visit Southwest Florida, definitely look up Captain Debbie and see if you can't arrange a fishing trip with her. All right. Well, thanks again for listening. Like I said, next week, we're going to feature our adventures from our very last day in Florida. And you're going to love it. We got to visit a really cool spot. So be sure and stay tuned. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. As always, please leave a rating and review if you haven't already. That helps so much for other amazing woman angler and adventurers like you to find the show. And hope you all are benefiting from this and getting inspiration and connecting with other women anglers through our Facebook group, Tight Lines, like Captain Debbie said, and see you next week.